in a moment, we're recording right away. We're recording. So if you know, hopefully you're going to stick around the whole time, but you will get access to this recording after. I always tell people, as long as nothing goes wacky. Sometimes like there's always like a 1% chance with these recordings that stuff's going to come out right. But we're going to kind of get started in a moment. I'd like you, if you could, go into the question box. Head over to the question box, folks, and let us know you can hear us okay. Maybe by way of telling me whether you are currently an audIT user or not an audIT user. If you're on, tell me what your status is. User, trial user, possible potential user. Cool, people can hear us, awesome. Yeah, so on this webinar, in a minute, I'm gonna turn it over to Lee. He is going to drive through, he's got some really cool stuff. I mean, we talked about this again. I'm super excited to have you on, Lee, because he's got, not only is he going to show you guys how he uses audIT in his MSP, but he is going to really give you like a really super expensive, we were talking about this before, like something people pay a lot of money for. You're going to share your sales cycle and how you really structure that. So I think this is going to be just some great stuff.
Yes, sir.
If you have questions, folks, if you have questions, what I'm going to do is ask away. I'm going to try and save them till the end, unless it seems like, you know, unless you're asking something about something to be repeated. Excuse me, I'm going to be coughing in your ear a little bit. I'm going to try and mute myself so that doesn't happen. I came back from a trip. We were in Tampa, Florida, for ID Agents Roadshow last week. I got down there on Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, I woke up and I was like, fine. And from there, went to another event in Phoenix for Chris Weiser's 7-Figure Mastermind group. Got there late Wednesday night. On Tuesday morning, I woke up. I was like, hey, I'm getting sick, which is awesome. Nothing like being on the road, traveling, speaking when you're getting sick. So I went to the drugstore, bought all sorts of stuff. I bought like Airborne, all sorts of stuff that you take to try and prevent colds from coming in strong. And it actually worked, man. All that vitamin C. This is like a very mild cold, but now I'm just got the remnants of this cough. So bear with me here. Yes, so Charles is saying, I was in Tampa too. I do not see any screen share now though. Yep, we're not sharing it yet. We're going to share it in a moment. We didn't want to blow the surprise of what you're going to see, because Lee's going to break down his whole sales cycle process for you. So with that said, guys, we're going to get started. Again, welcome Lee. Lee is Vice President of Business Development. Is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Awesome. So, and again, he works for a company called the audIT Group in Dallas. And Lee, I want to kind of just turn it right over to you. You can share your screen. You got the controls. I will manage the question and answer box, and I'm gonna kind of guide off by really starting. We want to start with, we're going to show the full spectrum here. So we're going to start with prospecting. And if you haven't watched the video that me and Lee did, where he talked about prospecting, like I think we talked 20 minutes, half hour, shared a bunch of good stuff. Definitely go to the blog on auditforit.com. I could share that with you. Really good content there to watch. But Lee's going to start off talking a bit about prospecting and really going right through the sales cycle all the way to what do you do when you're doing business reviews. So take it away, Lee.
Cool. Well, welcome everybody. Appreciate you attending and signing up. I'll start share my screen. Kind of start out by going over the sales cycle piece and what we look at and how we go over it, and kind of how we move through a prospect from, you know, I don't even know you, I've never met you in my life, all the way down through we're closing a deal and getting either a service or a recurring service membership type contract set up. So a little bit about me. I was, like Mike said, I'm the Vice President of Business Development for audIT. We work primarily in the construction industry. I have some groups outside of that as well, but really have a good niche in that world, understanding their software and their needs, and really been able to gain a whole lot of traction in that industry. So I've been with audIT for about a year now. I started my career out of college. I have a degree in finance. I moved over into construction right out the gate with a general contractor here in Dallas with a big company. I did that for about 4 years. Kind of figured out I wanted to get into sales. I liked that. My dad was in sales and owned his own companies, and I saw that's kind of where the majority of the opportunity was, to be able to determine what my income was going to be versus waiting on someone to tell me what I was going to be capable of making in the long run. So jumped into insurance sales and sold insurance and financial services for 6 years. Had no experience in sales or prospecting or anything at that point besides just going on appointments with my dad when I was a little kid. We would go, let's see. So with insurance, kind of my main piece there was, learning how to sell, learning how to prospect, and learning any and everything that I could. So calling as many people as I could on a daily basis. At that point, I called 500 people a day because that's how many it took for me to get the number of appointments that I needed. Over time, I've gotten a lot better at it, but got to put in the activity and practice at one point to get great at something. So I did that with insurance. Then the company moved me down to Austin and ran my own branch. Had the top ranked branch in the company. I enjoyed what I did. But at the same time, I was then more managing people and doing that side versus the selling and out and being the face in front of everybody and working with them and kind of solving problems was really my passion. So a friend of mine that had left the insurance group, he had moved over to medical sales, and I followed him over to that when he gave me the opportunity. Did that for a couple years with him, and then had an additional product put on my plate where I was working with 4 neurosurgeons in the Austin area, and I was doing every spine fusion surgery that they did. I learned a lot about prospecting in that world because there were at that time there were 47 neuro or orthopedic spine surgeons in the Austin area. So there are 47 people that you can work with. That's it. Go get in with some. So pushed and did what I could to do that. I built relationships with the doctors. I built relationships with their families, kind of intertwined my life into theirs. And that's the way that I was able to get that business and earn it and get the opportunity, and then delivered on the promises and the things that I sold on, and continued to get invited back. So that's when Clay reached out to me about a year ago, and we discussed some things, and I made a move over to work with them, and here we are. Kind of what led me into the audit presentation was throughout my sales experience, I always had a tool to use. I always had something to reference where, a fact finder type scenario, something where it's asking a bunch of questions to understand the scenario, to then take that big picture and be able to plug it into a sales scenario where here's how this will work. Here's how this will help this person. Here's how we can sell this person on this service or this one on that, and get them to realize the need and understand it. And, once somebody understands they have a need, they're educated on it, they'll typically make a move and sign to something or, one service or another at that point. So one thing that we did not have integrated into our business when I came in with audIT was a sales cycle and a sales presentation, a fact finder, and something to present to people. We were using just a basic Microsoft Word, Excel, kind of the two of them we combined, and had some charts and some marketing type things through what we called a presentation. But it was more or less just driven towards, here's exactly what we think you need. Well, I always knew in sales that's not the way to sell. You have to show the customer, here's all the different, pieces to the pie. What are you concerned with? Figure out the details underneath them, then propose a solution that person is looking for and that they are wanting, not something that I say that they need. So when I was at the ID agent seminar, I ran into Mike, and we kind of started talking, and I looked through the audit presentation, signed up for the trial. Next day, came back and talked to my operations, our vice president of operations. He and I kind of looked through everything, liked it, and started moving forward with it. And started creating a couple presentations right then and running with it. And we've had really good success right out the bat, and improved success as we've continued to learn and cater and the presentation to individual clients. So from a sales cycle perspective, the first thing really is when we're going through what the sales cycle is, prospecting. The whole step and all the process is the prospecting and the warm up, fact finder, present the need, confirm the need, present the benefits, close, and warm down. So obviously starting with the top of the list, the sales cycle. So prospecting is one thing that I found from personally prospecting and from managing sales agents. Prospecting is a difficult thing for a lot of people. It's a thing that a lot of people will put on the back burner. It's a thing that a lot of people will come up with excuses on here's why I'm not doing this. Here's why I've got so many other things to get done. And I just didn't have time to get to that, which is difficult for me because that's the number one piece that's going to pay you. That's the top income producing activity that you can be participating in at any time. So everything else that's coming to your plate, put it on the back burner. Prospecting and creating new business and helping your company grow has got to be number one if you're in sales. The other stuff can come along as it comes. Kind of my mindset and the way of looking at it is there's 24 hours in a day to get all of this stuff done. I've only got 6 to 8 hours to where I can talk with customers in that time frame. So making sure that I'm spending that time as wisely as possible and using it to either be reaching out to new people or in front of a customer, meeting with them, proposing a solution, finding additional ways to get in front of more people. So from a prospecting standpoint, the first piece, really relationships. Prospecting my relationships. I grew up in Dallas and in the state of Texas. I have a whole lot of relationships here. So reaching out to my friends, my friends' parents, and just acquaintances and folks that I know, my relationships that I've got, I'll also work off of their relationships. Hey, who do you know that can benefit from the same things? Simple enough on that. And those are obviously the ones that we all want to sell to. Relational selling with people we know that trust us. Those are the easier deals. In order to get more of those deals, you have to build more relationships. How are you involved? How are you out talking to people? How are you building those? Are you just hoping they come to you, or are you making them happen? Most people are passive and will not approach you and just engage you in a conversation. But most people are relatively receptive when you do that. So however it is, whether it's at a restaurant or on one of these calls, identifying somebody that you can reach out to and talk to, just people in the industry you're in, people that your kids are associated with through activities at school, whatever. Building the relationship for people that you see, not just letting those kind of go along and not utilizing them. They're the best way. Referrals obviously is huge as well. I try to get referrals out of every single appointment, referrals out of every single relationship, and generate all those referrals based on our performance is really what I like to push on. Are we doing a good job? Can we do better? How can we do better? And driving that home with our current group of customers and being able to get referrals from them off of that. Even if we mess up and don't do something right, it's not the end of the world because I have a great relationship with them. Their account managers have a great relationship with the customer, making sure that they know, hey, we made a mistake. We're sorry. We own it. We're fixing it here. It's already fixed. If that's the case. Going into cold calls, which I'd say this is probably the number 2 thing that most people don't like to do. I don't look at cold calls as I'm trying to sell you something. I look at cold calls as networking. How can I help you? How can you help me? Let's meet, let's sit down, let's have coffee, let's have lunch, let's grab a drink, let's grab dinner. Let's just talk for 30 minutes in the middle of the day, whatever the case may be. Making those cold calls, meeting those people, and building them into a relationship. Next piece, the personal introductions. So this is probably the top thing that most people don't want to do. We're scared to do this. We or scared of a little bit of rejection. People have a no soliciting sign on the door. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not soliciting anything. I'm building relationships. So when I walk into a place with my card, here's my card, I'm Lee. Here's what I do. Not really why I stopped in. Just wanted to introduce myself and see if there's any way we can work together and help each other grow in the future. Everybody is looking for that. And if you're not looking for that, then you're not growing. If you're not growing, you're going out of business. It's one option or the other. You're growing up, or your business volume is decreasing. There's no really, well, let's just maintain and let's keep everybody right here and we're all going to be happy. No, never works that way. You're going to start going backwards. And then the existing customer portion of prospecting. Our account managers work with these guys, and I work with our account managers to teach them how to sell, because my account managers, we try to hire a little bit more technically focused individual. So having that type of person, they a lot of times have to learn a little bit on the engaging people side, get comfortable with that, and kind of get over that initial fear of putting solutions out there and not just walking up to you and, okay, you asked for me to fix this, fixing it and moving on. Sit there, ask that person questions, get to know that person, get to know what their daily life is with their job, how are they using their computer and their technology, and learn from that person and every person in that office. What are you seeing? What are the common trends? And then come back and we start putting together solutions based on the relationships that our account managers are building. So that's a huge piece. The majority of, I'm not gonna say the majority, but a large chunk of our sales come from existing customers, identifying in the beginning what they want and then increasing our services over time based on their need and the relationships that they're building. And then not really having to be worried about losing an account or losing a customer. It's pretty difficult to fire your friend. And every one of my account managers, that's my expectation. When I go sit down with a company's leadership team on a quarterly basis for their QBR, that's one of the big pieces that I want to know about. How are we on building relationships? How are we on working with your staff? And then coaching my account managers and my remote support folks on, here's how we want to be doing this. Here's some things we can improve on. Coaching and feedback, making sure I have coachable people so they're open to listening and learning these new ideas. Kind of moving on into the warm up. So this is where my first meeting is with somebody, sitting down with them, just getting to know them. From when I'm standing at the front, never met this person in my life, they approach me, how I'm perceived by them, how I'm dressed, how I am going to approach them, what my overall demeanor and attitude is. My body language is huge in that. And then knowing enough questions to be able to carry on a conversation. I really pride myself in being able to carry on a conversation with the ultimate introvert, the person who really does not like to have conversations. And then a lot of times it seems like it's pulling teeth on those people to get them to talk to you, besides, hey, how's it going? It's good. How do you get those people engaged? So thinking of questions, sitting down and kind of going through that, understanding that mindset. I have a few friends that are that way. I have an employee that's that way. Asking that person, man, how are you doing this? How are you, how would you like to be approached? What's comfortable for you? Learning from those people. And then on the opposite side of the spectrum, you've got the super outgoing, loud person who is, and that's kind of me a lot of the times, who's able to take over a conversation and kind of just make it, here's the focus and here we go. Keeping that person under control and not letting them run your meeting, not letting them push over you and push past you for what, the basic, or just what's the number at the very end. Well, the number frankly doesn't matter. We'll get there eventually, but kind of just getting to know that individual and keeping them reined in, keeping them on point and focused on what you have going, and what you're there to talk about. So another question there, are the decision makers at the table? I'm not a fan of going to give a presentation or even really sit down to discuss these needs if the decision maker is not at the table. If they have an in-house IT person and that's the person that's coordinating this, okay, where's your operations manager, your office manager, where's the CEO, the president, who's the person that has to sign off on this check getting written every single month. That person needs to be sitting at the table with me. Otherwise, it's not worth my time. It's not worth anyone's time, because you're giving a presentation for someone that cannot make a decision, and they're going to go relay a message. And when they relay the message, we all know that it's not going to come across nearly as well as it did when you were presenting it. And most of the time, you're going to miss out on that opportunity. So the decision makers being there is a big piece. And then through the conversation, get them comfortable answering your questions. Ask those questions, whether it's the ultimate extrovert or introvert or in between, doesn't matter. Really listening to what they want, focusing on their needs, what they are saying once you get them talking to you. So you're able to really understand where their need is, and where they've got some heartburn, what the areas are that they're sensitive to, and that they're the ultimate reason and the bottom line why they allowed you to come talk to them today and take their time. So then that jumps into the fact finder. And I kind of will preface this. I try, if I've got enough notice, if I have 2 or 3 days notice, I will send the fact finder to the individual up front, and I'll highlight a few different areas that, hey, could you please do these pieces for me? What office locations? What are your internet speeds? What do you have a backup internet solution? Do you have any kind of software subscriptions? Any software subscriptions that are specific to your business and your industry? Are you with Microsoft Office and Windows? Are you on Macs? Are you do you use QuickBooks for accounting? What kind of construction software is one thing we work with a lot. So giving that to them, that way typically they'll have it finished and done when I come to sit down and discuss everything with them. And that's a big piece that I don't have to spend their time going through, and that they wouldn't necessarily know offhand anyhow. I'm also a big fan of the budget piece on the fact finder, and looking through all of just what they are thinking is going to be coming up with that. So let me kind of roll through here real quick. I'll have them write down, what their issues are. I'll include these in here, and then I'll bring a copy of this as well, because I'm going to elaborate on those issues and just describe, and then I'm going to keep asking questions around the basic issue that they give me. Dig into it, kind of pick open a sore spot, and kind of let them vent to me a little bit. Here's the problem with this. This happens all the time, and it's repetitive, and we took it to the Geek Squad, and they said they fixed it, but then we got it back and plugged it in, and it's still not working, and I don't even know what to do now. We just decided not to even use that anymore. So when you're able to really start digging into what the issues are, it really creates a lot of urgency, which is, it's listed. It's part of the little packet there. Urgency is what you're trying to create through these questions and understanding these issues. And then it's going a little slow today.
Yeah, you can never rely on the internet to work when we're doing one of these presentations.
All right, so then who's your current IT support, if you even have anyone at this point? I don't really need to know the contact unless it's an internal person that I'm going to be working with, side by side. If it's a company that's losing their business, I'll usually go through the IT point of contact at the office or through the CEO or president, just making sure that they're copied on any and all correspondence, with the other group. So I'm trying to be very transparent with all those things. E&O insurance, I like that, because it's an easy question to ask, because there's a lot of one-man shops out there. Maybe some of these guys are one-man shops. It makes it relatively easy for me to outsell that, just from a dependability standpoint. Plus, I've got a great E&O insurance policy and cyber coverage, and probably more insurance than most other MSPs out there, because that's a fear I've got, especially with everything we see going on. So making sure that I'm covered and discussing that with a potential client. Does your current group have that? Well, what would happen if this or that happened? What would happen if you got ransomware? What would happen if all your passwords got stolen and people started to hack into your bank account? What kind of put those ideas out there, see how they respond, see how they act and what their body language is when I'm asking. Those are sensitive points for people. I'm a big fan of the financial side. I have to know the parameters that I'm working in. I tell them, if you could tell me this, I greatly appreciate it. I'm not trying to rip you off, and I'm not trying to just get our number all the way up there to where that monthly budget is. I'm going to show you, here's what these pieces are, and it's on printed hard literature, and these are the costs regardless of if you were to have told me that or not. I want to try to get as much possible in there for you, for what you need and for what you see value in.
Yeah, Lee, what do you do when you get pushback on that? Because, that's a very popular question among our users is, my clients won't tell me how much they're spending. Even when I push back, like what's some ways you can kind of really get them, comfortable with giving you that information?
Yes, sir. So, initially, a lot of my warm-up approach and sending this to them up front so they know what to expect. I'm not just springing it on them. And in my warm-up, part of what I discuss is, where do we need to be financially? And from a financial standpoint, are you getting what you're paying for? Are you happy with that? Is it too much? Is it not enough? Are you wanting more? I don't struggle with this because I prepare them in my warm-up for it. I learned that when I was in insurance and financial services, when I sat down with someone for the very first time that they've ever met me, and in the next hour, I'm going to walk away with every bit of information that I wanted on all of your retirement accounts, all of your health care, all of really any kind of retirement planning that you've done. I'm going to be able to understand the big picture. So I think a lot of times in our world with IT support and security, a lot of people think it's just remote support, or just you put the cables in, or just you did the network, or one part or another. Most of us work in several different areas in the field, so being able to communicate that and show them and in all these areas is what we're covering, not just one or the other. It's a big group of things that I'm discussing. So, and to answer the question, I really don't get pushback on there, and it's because I warm up, with them to where they're comfortable with me. It's not an awkward scenario for me to ask that. Again, that's part of building that relationship through the warm up right there in the very beginning.
Cool.
Buying criteria, that's really, I got that up top in the issues area when they're telling me what the problem is. Well, I'm going to ask you the problem. Well, how would you fix it? What's the solution? What are y'all doing now? What are some things you guys have thought about? Take those, and they're pretty much going to tell me what they were looking for when they were looking, and they tried to solve it themselves. They weren't able to, and they bring us in, and we're able to. But the buying criteria comes from where my issues are and what's important to that person. The competition side of things, I'm not really worried about who I'm competing with. My biggest thing is, are we all bidding apples to apples? And I go over that. I'm going to show you, here's what it'll be just for us to do these 1 and 2 things. Here's what a membership piece would be. Kind of give you a full spectrum and outline of all of it. Location information. This is the biggest part that I'll send to them and have them fill out. I'll highlight a couple sections, just say, can you give me this stuff in particular? So I have all that walking in, and I'm prepared and just ready to communicate and discuss things as knowledgeably as possible. And plus, they've put it on the piece of paper, so they're starting to think about it. One of the things on line of business applications that I like to have them put down is, how much are you paying for this? Because a lot of the time when we come in, we're combining and bundling everything together in one user for here's everything that they need. Well, it makes my number look really, really high when they think my number is this plus all the other stuff. This kind of makes it where I'm able to then tie it all in as a package. Then if you get down, this populates in a minute.
Cool. And while you're doing that, I'm going to just mention to folks that a couple people were asking if they're going to get the, if they can get a copy of the document, I will send out, when I send out the replay of this, I'll make sure to send out this document as well.
Cool. So this page, I'm sure will come up in a minute. But as I continue to proceed through, we've all seen the different squares and the way that audit's put together. I'll customize and tailor these top line items here, the categories. I'll set them up and based on what this person is, going to need most likely, and based on what my just experience is telling me. Hey, here's what these are gonna be. But I can adjust them when I come back to show them here's my proposed solution. So when I'm going through these, the way we've designed them is they're all kind of put together and built based on our membership plans and built around which membership plans are going to cover which services. And obviously the higher tiered membership plan that you've got, the more services it's going to cover and the more green boxes you're going to get. So same as, as everyone, we kind of customize that little piece, and then this will get down to the notes here. But after that piece, I'll come back and I'll start working on my my basic audit, and that first go at putting it all together and starting to tie it all together in my mind and show them here's what your current scenario and situation is, and here's where you're wanting to head in the future, helping them get there.
Got a blank screen here.
Yeah, I know it's coming. It's should be loading. There's some of it. Yeah, there's some pages are loading.
Internet is never our friend.
Never. So, let's see. Pull this back up through here.
If you're having problems with it, I can always try and get into my account, or I can actually get into your account and bring it up if you'd like. That's easy.
Okay. Yeah, or here, maybe I can pull it up that way. And rush.
We'll see if I can get here as well.
Let's see. Okay. So reports, do it that way. So it's not going to pull that with all those pieces with it. There it is. So let me just close this guy real quick and then I'll reopen it.
Yeah, one of the things, I'll kind of pre-frame this while you're working on that. One of the things I found was neat when we originally went through this is just seeing the way that you formatted your reports, a little different than the way we format them. So it just goes to show you that there's not one way to skin a cat.
For sure. It has to be tailored and customized for each customer, because I change a whole lot of pieces every single time. So just a basic little portion here, explaining the audit score, how to read the report, then kind of start out with their base plan. And so this is one that I did relatively recently, maybe 2 months ago. We brought this group on board, and they had a relatively technical staff, and I put some extra information in here for the technical staff, but also their principals and the real decision makers were not as technical. So I left the information in here for those folks to read and digest down the way when they have a minute, but kind of just skim through some of those pieces when it comes to the infographics and those types. So here's kind of their base plan where they set when we first walked in and started going through things. And kind of basically, their server backup solutions, continuity. It was a decent sized architecture group that really didn't have anything in place and had no solutions. They had an IT company that had worked with them in the past, And when we went in and checked and saw kind of what was going on, it was relatively sad that the formal group hadn't really done anything. And it's a huge nationwide group, which frankly, those are my favorite ones to sell against, because a lot of times things slip through the cracks and customers don't get followed up on, and they don't get the service that they want. And they're pretty easy to pick up when they're not getting service the way they expect. So from an infrastructure standpoint, there's kind of where they sit there. And then you can see, some of the different pieces where the backup and disaster recovery, business continuity topics here. I put in an infographic in there, for that specific scenario. And I'll use some of the infographics from audIT, and then I've got some of my own with my vendors that we use, and use some of the printed material that they'll provide us. This kind of got to be a relatively long presentation. It's 40 pages long. I took it and had it printed and had it bound, and presented it that way. But here's some of the different backup type pieces, the difference between business continuity and backup. I find that when I explain that, it makes it a whole lot easier to sell the continuity solution, which typically will have a higher margin. It's a higher cost. And it's better service for most people. Then into the workstations, and you can kind of see just as it goes through, it hits those same points that were in the infrastructure portion on the outline.
I want to stop you there for a second, just so that people can see what you did. So what Lee did here is he generated the PDF from us. You obviously saw he inserted a data infographic in there, and he's reshuffling this around. That's the beauty of audIT with the fact that there's no page numbers on any of the pages, right? So he took the infographics that go with infrastructure and then put it with infrastructure. And then he's going to go into the audit detail for security, right? And he's got the infographics for security under. So he's basically formatting this in a way that makes sense for him to present it.
Yes, sir. So security, went over these same points, and then come down and explain it the same way, and have this for the technical people, and kind of just breeze through it for the executive type individual who's not going to benefit from a lot of the details, who's probably going to just get pissed off when you give them too many details, and they're going to get on their phone or find something else to do because they're really not intrigued or engaged, because it's beyond what they even care about. So security pieces, and this is a huge topic now. I mean, I'm able to close a lot of deals by just discussing the security side of things. I think that's something that everyone in our industry needs to be pushing and discussing with every customer all the time. It's the one thing that can really take down their business when they understand it that way. People see it on TV, but it's never going to happen to me. Well, it happens all the time, to big companies, to small companies, to one-man shops with a laptop. It happens, and it's crippling when it does. So being able to show, here are the different parts of security, and really at this point you have nothing helping you. It's relatively easy for someone to get in. In this security side of things, we go over these pieces as well, and then I'll always take the audIT little report, and I'll show that to them, kind of walk them through that. Here that piece is for that group. So just simple enough, and it lets them understand, man, security really is no joke, right? There's your password. It's when people see their password on there, especially when you start looking at decision makers, most of the time, not all of the time, decision makers are older individuals, and they have the same password for their bank account, for all their emails, for anything and everything that they do. And a lot of times it's their kid's name and their date of birth or something like, when you tell them what that is and how that can affect them, they really start to listen, especially the executive type person. If you have one of their pieces listed, it goes a long way with them. So that's kind of a big tool that we put in there under the security side that really, really helps seal the deal with, on that mindset. Then managed support and services. What services do you currently have available? What not? where would we move in the future? What services do you want? This is a piece I really try to engage them in conversation with to understand everything I can about what their expectations are, even to the extreme that when I leave, the two things I always do for a follow-up. Number one, I'll write you a handwritten thank you note for spending some time with me and giving me an opportunity. And number two, I'm going to send you an email that asks you, can you please summarize to me in one paragraph or less, one sentence is fine. What are our IT services to you? What are your expectations? So that way, when I come back for my second meeting and I'm presenting these theses, this is all going to be covered through that. And they're going to understand, okay, here's what he's actually talking about. Here's what he's doing. And, it has a little bit more value, I found that way. So then kind of going into the comparison plan. Let's look at this outline again. So the fact finder, present the needs. So kind of understanding and going through that baseline audit presentation, customize it for each presentation around the offerings and membership plans. Higher level memberships will turn more boxes green. So I'll kind of get there in just a second. Know your clients, determine how much detail to provide. This is something Mike and I've talked about a few times, and I talk about it with sales folks all the time. If you give too many details, you confuse people. You get that glassed over look. If you don't know what that glassed over look looks like, it's probably because you need to go find out what it looks like, because as soon as that happens, you lose. You're wasting your time, their time. They're zoned out. They don't understand, and it's over. You got to make sure that you're making it simple enough for each individual to be able to really get out of the presentation what they need, whether it's technical or simplicity. Does this fix this problem? So again, that's why back to the fact finder, having that executive and that decision maker there, good, and then having them tell me their issues and them telling me what they are concerned about and where their heartburn is. That's a game changer to me. So confirm the need. As cheesy as this sounds, and there was a time when after I was taught this, I didn't use it. And then I started going with some people and watching them sell and seeing them use this piece and watching the success that they had. It blew me away. Now this is cheesy, stupid. I'm not doing that piece. I do it every time now. Something just as simple as, so after I've presented everything and here's where you currently sit on your baseline. So, and I know where your issues are and what your sensitivity areas and your soft points or sensitive points. Yeah, if I could show you a solution to address the security, the service that you receive, and fix your mobile devices, would that be something you would want to integrate into your business? They wait for the answer. So I'd like to walk you through just one of our, let's say, our essential security membership, and I'll start into the next. Here's my proposed solution. And the next little thing I got there: don't give them more than they want. Give people what they need. The only way you know what they need is by doing a great fact finder and listening. Listen twice as much or more than you talk. Don't tell. Ask questions. Ask leading questions and sit down and spend some time putting those questions together so and you have a plan for when this happens. Here's how I'm going to respond, and here's how I'm going to just in the future get to where it's just a reaction and it's nothing that you're having to stop and think about. It comes out. You've practiced it and studied it. So
Lee, let me confirm something with you. So you do the baseline, you go through the baseline with them, and then you do that confirm the need, right?
Right.
So
right.
You're
because after I just showed you exactly, I just showed you all your problems again, and we talked about them again, and I pick off the scab and let it fester up again, get you a little upset and a little hot, and kind of watch that and see. Now I know this is where he gets pissed. Like when they don't call him back for 2 days to fix the printer, that's when he gets mad. It's something that simple for an executive most of the time. So learning and figuring those pieces out. And then also at the same time, making sure that you're communicating technically what you need to those types of people, but building the trust and the rapport with the decision maker and getting them set up and getting them confident that their issues and the problems in their mind will be resolved and solved. And I kind of even go over and above where those people, we really work with them one-on-one right out the gate to get their issues, any and all, if it's not system-wide, and get them squared away ASAP. Because even if the implementation, we all know that takes a little time and kind of phases in, and there's, oh, didn't know this before, didn't know that. When you go to talk to the decision maker, they're not the one that gets bent out of shape. They're okay with everything, mainly just because they've got those specific issues they were concerned about have been addressed. So into the comparison plan. So in this scenario, we kind of put everything in play, and I got all of these boxes green for this group with one exception. So then I'll go through and through all the information I've gathered and through all the conversations that we've had, I'm going to start applying that, that information that I remember most of it or have it documented in my fact finder and can go to that as a resource, hitting each one of these. So when we talked about the server before, here's what you said. When we talked about backup and recovery and business continuity, here's what you were concerned with, and addressing those concerns and showing them, okay, here's how we can handle those types of issues. And then from there, again, showing some of the solutions and some of the pieces that are going to make those things work and get them figured out. And here's some of the things we can plug in to make those happen. Different type of backup solution that we would propose to them for those different products, PCs or cloud type space. Here's into the security side of things and what the membership would offer and provide for them at this point, helping them understand it. And again, the same as before, hitting each item and what the hot points are and the hot buttons with that person that I'm selling to. What are they concerned with? So addressing and touching on all of those. Managed support and services, again, exact same thing. And then telecom, if that's a solution or scenario that we're looking at, providing a solution on those as well. Then kind of go over this piece, and this is where I really like to, this is the highlight of it. This is what really gets the individual that's the decision maker. This is where they'll talk to you. This is where it's here's option A, here's the base where you sit, and here's where we're headed. Do you like this? And then again, that kind of confirming comment and getting them moving on that direction. Any questions on this one, Mike?
Sorry, I had myself muted. That's brilliant. Now you don't put the price on there. So some people, when you print off a comparative report or any kind of audit report, you can choose to put the pricing on there, the cost. Well, it's really the estimated, the monthly expense they're paying, and then the monthly expense you are going to charge them. You chose not to put it on here. Can you talk about that?
So yeah, say that one more time. I kind of cut out for a second.
So you chose not to.
You there? Mike?
Me now.
Oh, there you are. Okay.
Yeah, my headset just decided to stop working. That's nice of it.
No worries. So rather than use that financial piece, the way I kind of go through this is here's the piece, here's what all the needs with the presentation. And then when we get into the financial side of things, we use audIT as our main center hub for our ticketing solutions and tracking everything and doing anything and everything. So just, I'll have a quote that's in there, and that's kind of how I'll break that down and go over it, and just kind of show here's how this is fixing these issues, and I kind of go with my quote piece of paper and then this summary to kind of side by side show you here's from a financial aspect, here's what's taking care of all these things and what's solving the issues and the concerns that you've currently got. Yeah, so that's kind of like from that approach. That's I like that. There's value in both of them. I kind of like using that little way better, because I don't, and I'm gonna leave the audit with them. My quotes. I'm kind of particular with that stuff, just on how often I'm passing it out, who I'm passing it to, and what's it going to be used for, kind of, understanding those. But I typically will have them sign the quote right then, and it's this thing that you're wanting to move forward with. But yeah, these are the solutions that we knew, or the issues that we had. These are all great solutions. I'm on board, from the financial side. Really, if you're a little bit high on things from a financial aspect in the customer's mind, at this point, you have an opportunity to discuss that and show them why that it is what it is, how you came up with the numbers, the amount of effort and the amount of employee time that it's going to take to build it out and set it up the right way. I like to remind them, the way you guys have it now, your first 4 years in business, this was just pieced together. I'm going to go all the way back to the beginning, and I'm going to start it out the way it should have been built and build it to where it's perfect from ground zero. So we're not just adding on additional problems as we keep moving. So this, in this scenario, this would be kind of an upper level type plan that we offer that really fills in all of the boxes, versus I can pull up, look at this group. Similar scenario, but this was a lot less technical. This individual is very, very busy. We had less than 20 minutes to present this and get it closed, and we did it. Just based on sticking with what's valuable and what was information that he want. He really didn't care about anything from a telecom standpoint, or a couple of the others. He was more concerned in his personal mind. He wanted, what's the customer support and services, and then where are we at with our network and our security and everything working together. So with this group, I changed the format a little bit, and rather than having all the infographics and all the additional data in there, it was not needed. I'm not sitting in front of a technical person at this point. I'm sitting with an individual who's telling me, here's the problems I've got. That's it. It's an executive mindset. Fix that man's problems. That's what I'm setting out to do, is figure out, how do I solve these issues? When I solve them, off we go. And they're going to sign up because their problems are all solved. It's just a matter of a cost at that point. And really, when I hit into the security, when I show you the dark web scan and kind of can point out a few other things within your internal security setup, you're gonna start to see a little bit of the reality of how vulnerable you actually are. So then right into the comparison plan, so you can tell not nearly as long. I think this one was 11 pages. The other one was 40. I'm doing them more this way now than I did originally, and I have a better success with this personally, just keeping it as simple as I can possibly keep it. So the security type plan that this group was looking for, we checked off these green boxes and then moved these other to yellow. So things along help desk support doesn't include just unlimited help desk support like some of our plans do. This one, we have it all set. If you need help desk support, it's $125 an hour with a 15-minute minimum. We've got everything, an agent list or an agent installed on any and all servers and computers, so we can go in and we can remotely access and do the remote support we need and track the time and bill the customer appropriately. Kind of easy enough on that. We give them all the remote support that they need through the implementation process, and then have a meeting with the account manager, myself, go over it all with the customer. We're all happy. We're all on board with where we originally set to go. Yes, sir. Perfect. Great. Anything moving forward from a help desk perspective will be falling under, it'll be a billed item. And again, it didn't get them all the way to the 95, 99, 100, which is okay. It's not what we want to make them think is important. I want you to think you're not all the way there yet. There's still more you need to do. You're not as safe as you need to be. You're not as supported as you could be. You don't have a strategic plan. Your company is growing like crazy, and you're just onboarding these people. I'll keep onboarding them for you, but what's your permanent long-term solution as your data continues to gather? What's the solution on when this server blows up and shuts down and it's gone? How is that backed up? So that's kind of where it gives us opportunities to upsell that customer. Again, you have to have that relationship to upsell, but you have the opportunity then. So same exact thing with network security, discussing that with them. And then here, this piece again is my main selling point, or my main sheet that I go to, and I'm going to kind of reference this with my quote and line everything up side by side. So yeah, any questions on that piece?
No, that's great. Awesome. I know we've got about 4 more minutes until the top of the hour, so I want to be respectful of your time.
Sure.
You know, happy to keep the recording going and keep on as long as folks want to stay on. But
Okay.
yeah,
I mean, so almost finished on this piece. So just with the closing, the line I like to use really in most cases: do you feel that this solution solves the issues and concerns that you're dealing with? Are there any other concerns? That's your close. If they say, yeah, this takes care of my issue, here, I'm gonna get your signature here then, and then we'll start getting the ball rolling. Here's what the onboarding process and implementation looks like. Here's how that's gonna roll. Here's who's gonna be with you on it. Here's how we're gonna hold your hand and not do it all at once and kind of phase it in over time. Have it ready. You should expect them to sign it. So I'll have them sign that quote, and that gets that piece and that commitment, kind of letter of intent type scenario moving. And then I will send them our formal service agreement with the services that they're moving forward with, just via DocuSign later that afternoon. And then the warm down piece, I think this is super important, setting those timelines and expectations, and really helping the customer understand, here's what I need you to expect as we continue to move forward. Not, don't let them think it's all going to be happy and perfect and instantly better. It's a process. If you don't communicate that process, the person's going to be upset. Simple enough. But when the process is communicated, they could not be any happier. They know what to expect. Update them along the way, daily, weekly, semi-weekly, whatever. What works for them, provide that update. Yeah, simple enough. That's kind of the basic process in the sales cycle that we go through. And then I know we went pretty in depth on the last deal with prospecting on how I'll go in, what we discussed there.
Yeah, that was awesome. I do have a couple questions we can ask.
Sure.
This is a good time. Arturo is asking, I missed how the boxes integrate with the technology. I'm not sure. Not sure what? Maybe you can clarify what you're looking for there, Arturo. Did you mean how the box is populated, or something else? And I'll kind of move on. Yes, he says. So we didn't really get into the actual software component inside of audIT, but it's really as simple as clicking on one of the boxes, choosing red, yellow, or green. So.
Yeah. So it's really, the program is really easy to use. And green is it's completely solved. I use yellow as it's available with the plan. It's an additional piece you'd have to pay for, but it's available to you. And then red is this is something that we are not providing for you at this point. We can do it at another time, or it's an additional service that our account manager will upsell them on.
Right. Charles is asking if you're charging for the assessment.
No. And I'll do, what do we call the thing? What's the network scan? We run on a network.
Network detective.
Network detective, or there's another one. Rapid fire. So we'll
same
run
thing,
that.
Same
Perfect. Okay, so we'll do that, and we'll run one of those. It costs me a little money. My close ratio's more than good enough to make sure we're covering those costs in the deals that we get and that we're doing. So, if it's happened once, that if it's somebody that they want to keep discussing and just keep talking and dragging it out, yeah, my time's more valuable than going to just talk with you 40 times. Here's what we're doing. And that's that. And kind of it took me 4 meetings to close the deal, which is insane to me. But the 4th one on the phone call that we had before I went to the meeting, I told the gentleman, Victor, if I come down this time, We're not going to discuss it, and we're not going to think about it, and we're not going to have, this reason or that reason. We're going to do it. That's the reason I'm going to come out there and going to go over it. I know, Lee, we're going to do it this time. All right. Like, that's that simple. There's no other questions I could answer, no other concerns. There's the only way I'm coming out is if we're doing this.
That's awesome. That's cool.
Otherwise, there's more people I need to be calling.
Asking, what is the single greatest sales tip for IT services?
The single greatest sales tip, IT services?
She asked, what is the single greatest sales tip for IT services?
Sales tip. In my personal opinion, in sales, be in front of enough people. Know your metrics. How many phone calls you have to make to get an appointment? How many appointments to get a fact finder? How many fact finders to get a formal presentation? How many presentations to close a deal? That, know that, and then you can reverse engineer it all the way back. I mean, if I need 10 deals, I have to make 80 phone calls to get one deal. Well, you better get rolling, because you got 80 phone calls times 10. Here we go. 800 calls to make this week.
Awesome. Jeff was asking for clarification on the rapid fire tools, Network Detective. We don't, audIT does not integrate. He's asking, doesn't integrate with it doesn't integrate with audIT, does it? Or he just means they export the rapid fire tools data to a CSV or something and import into audIT. So I just want to make sure I clarify here, for folks who aren't users of audIT, we don't import the data. Whatever you use to gather your data is totally up to you. You're analyzing that data, and then you're coming into audIT. And maybe I'll just share the screen here just so I can show.
And I don't present the data. I get the data from my network people and my technical folks to look at and use. That data is not going to help you sell anything, really at all. The data is going to confuse the decision maker almost every single time. Keep that in mind. That data is for me and my guys to understand. So when we're building the quote out, we're not committing to something that we can get in trouble with. I did that. It was a small 3-man operation that we worked with, a real estate company, and their server was full. Their desktops were all full. Like, everything was full. And the old IT guy had created partial duplicates of the server all over the place, of different desktops all over the place. So when we went to do the data migration and move them into the cloud, it was a exhaustive nightmare. We lost money on it because we did not understand everything that we needed to understand going into it. So we kind of put that process in place, or we do that network analysis with one of my technical guys, so we understand everything. They understand what's on that server. That way we're making sure that we know what we're walking into.
Yeah, absolutely. Data, presenting data and technicals to anybody who's not a super technical person is a sure way to either lose the sale or to not get paid as much as you should get paid, because, and that's not me saying it, that's science, man. That is your brain. Our brains are wired for emotion, and logic just stifles that. If you're presenting data points to them, even non-technical data points will get people just using the logical part of the brain, and the emotional part of the brain is what they need to make a better buying decision. Believe it or not, that's just proven behavioral science, behavioral psychology. And it's proven in study after study after study that if you're not triggering emotion, you are really hurting your chances of getting paid well.
Fortune 500 companies spend millions of dollars figuring that out and paying consultants. Okay, how do you tell our sales team that? How do we not just go tell them what we know? Data and technical information is never going to close anything in any sale. Nope. In financial services, I did not sell you what your return is going to be. I sold you want this opportunity down the road in 20 years. Here's what will get you there. Not here's exactly how, and here's the math on every single year.
Right. Yeah, let me just show you. This is inside of the software. So when you want to change a box, basically you just click on the box up comes your canned summary statements. Every item has these 3, and then we provide some predefined, or you can provide your own summary statement. So you can basically type in whatever you want to say here. You got 150 characters to do it, and you choose the color. You can add it globally so it shows up in this pick list later. And when you pick it, there's how you do it. That's pretty much how you do it. audIT's a very simple tool. All of your findings, and go and tell us what it means in audIT. There's no pulling data from anywhere. You don't want that to happen. So hopefully that answers y'all. Any other questions before we wrap up? Give it a few moments. Well, Lee, thank you so much for this. This was like a massive education in sales. I mean, you guys today got like a clinic from a trained sales professional. And what he provided with that outline is not just an outline. I mean, that's a process. So, and he graciously allowed us to share that process with you. So I'll be sending out with the replay tomorrow, probably sometime tomorrow. You'll get that that outline that Lee built for you. Any plans to make? Let's see. Said thank you. This was extremely helpful. A couple thank yous here. Any plan to make the audit proposals or fact finder available in a document format? No, there's not. They really don't want you editing it too much. I know you can go in and edit it if you have Adobe, but it works the way it is. It's sometimes trying to convince people that this stuff works is the hardest thing I have to do, but this thing works, and we're trying to coax you guys to use it as is, because we have piles of proof that it works. So
yeah, there's always people like our deal, and there's always got to be something else that makes it easier, right? There's nothing that makes it easier. It's activity. How much effort did you put into it, and is how much you're going to get back out. Just do it the exact way it shows, and you'll probably close more deals than you're closing now, especially if you're selling on technicalities and data and those pieces like that. You lose the person that you have to sell to when you do that. And I promise you, the IT technical person that's there with you as well, that's on that person's staff, is not going to be able to convince them most of the time.
Yeah, there's a great study. I mean, like I said, there's studies after studies after study done, and I like to incorporate these when I give talks. And I've been telling this story from Made to Stick about a study that happened in Africa years ago. It's made from the book Made to Stick, which is a few years old at this point. But this charity, Save the Children, did a study to see if they could increase the amount of donations. And what they discovered from this study is that once they started really focusing on simplicity and emotion as opposed to data, they doubled what the people spent on donating. I mean, that was a profound discovery. And what they discovered, the reason it happened is because once it gets simple and emotional, people are just, that part of the brain that needs to make that best buying decision is activated. So they even found that just asking a simple analytical question before people touched the emotional part, the emotional part of the sales letter, if you will, hurt their chances of making money. So this stuff works, man. Keep it simple.
Keep it simple.
It's ridiculous how simple it is. And sometimes I think people, and people tell me this all the time. They'll come up and they'll go, you told me it was going to be simple, and I just looked at it and I was like, this is too simple. It's too non-technical, and I didn't jump on with audit. And then a year later they come back and they'll be like, I refused to believe that it could work, and I finally tried it, and I was just like, yeah, it's because it's so simple. People just don't want those red boxes. They want the green boxes, and they spend more money.
Mm-hmm. And again, like, corporations have spent millions of dollars developing this for their own in-house use that's catered to their business. Here it is for our business. Frankly, it's irrelevant whatever it costs.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I love it. Thanks, Lee. Appreciate it. And Jeff, the answer is yes to the rapid fire question. You guys, he was asking essentially, I'll just read the question again. You use rapid fire tools to collect the data, and then you as an MSP analyze it on our side, or he said on our side, then use that info to manually build a report inside audit, which presents the info to the customer in a more curated and presentable way. Absolutely 100% correct. You know, the folks who really, I think, sometimes it's a little leap of faith in the way this system works. If you're not used to doing this, like, first of all, if you are using any, and I'm not going to make fun of any tools or say you shouldn't use any tools because they have their place. Rapid fire is a great tool. There's tons of great tools out there. But if you're going and looking at a tool like that does research and it does deep stuff like that and prints out these reports that are technical, and you're presenting that, you are really putting yourself in a very bad position to sell. I promise you, you're not making as much money as you should. You should be, at the very least, even if you decide not to use audit, if you say, you know what, audit's too expensive, you absolutely should be taking what you've learned from the way audit looks and build your own report. Go in Word, go in PowerPoint, and cobble it together. You know, we're here for you when you're ready to not have to cobble it together. But if you're not analyzing that and putting it in a format and doing the work, you're not making as much MRR as you should, and you're losing deals, period.
And if it's too expensive now, like, go build a pipeline. In 2 weeks, you can have a decent pipeline rolling, and spend the money to do it and use the product on those presentations and see the difference. Don't change it. Just use it the simple way it's built out and created. Just do that and keep it that simple, and just amaze yourself. Like, it's that easy. Right. Use the tool.
Right on. And a couple things I'll leave folks off with. You should definitely go here to auditforit.com. If you're not a user yet, we have a couple things here. Click that button to try it free for 15 days. If you want to see how the system works, a little more of a technical, you know, how to use the software presentation as opposed to more of a sales centric presentation like this, which was great, by the way. This was, like I said, I think people paid thousands and thousands of dollars to go through what Lee just went through. So this was brilliant. But you can see a more technical demo of the system on how to actually use the software there. And with that said, guys, I want to thank everybody for being on. We're going to cut this short. If you have any other questions, please email me at mike@auditforit.com. And Lee, thanks so much for doing this for us.
For sure. Thank you for having me. Y'all have a great day.
Right on. Great day, everyone.